It's the bottom of the hour. Time now for the top of the news. Authorities officially charging suspect Edward Archer with attempted murder in the ambush of a Philadelphia police officer. Police say he confessed to shooting the officer in his car, claiming that he did it in the name of Islam. So what's next in this case? Let's bring in now David Schwartz. He's here, defense attorney and former prosecutor, and Mercedes Colwin, Fox News legal analyst. Good to see both of you.
Great to see you.
Thank you, David. I'm going to start with you because already we've been reporting that his mother is saying that her son had been hearing voices in his head. Is the mother trying to couch an insanity plea? And if the defense follows that suggestion, would it be easy or tough to prove, David?
Well, it's very tough to prove. I mean, hardly any insanity defenses ever win. But certainly, look, the totality of the history of this person has to be taken into account. The mother's in a good position to evaluate that. I do see an insanity defense being brought up here as an affirmative defense on the part of the defense, but they'll have a long way to go to prove that. Okay, Mercedes, let's talk about this. So, Brian Yinnes reported on this earlier in the newscast. The shooter is charged with attempted murder, aggravated assault on a police, violation of uniform, firearm, reckless endangerment of another person, and terrorist threats and simple assault for the shooting of police officer Jesse Hartnett. Mercedes, I ask you, what angle does prosecution pursue to ensure the best chance of winning their case?
Definitely the terrorist claims, because the fact that he said what he said immediately before shooting and ambushing this police officer in the name of Islam, in the name of ISIS. He didn't say, I don't like the police, I hate you, whatever. He actually pinpointed his own affiliation with the terrorist activity. That's the best way to do it, because obviously there's a lot of sensitivity to terrorist activities. The juries are very highly tuned. They're sensitive to it. And now to go forward with that jury and say, look, this is a big issue. This man did it because he has these ties.
So, I'm sorry, were you going to add something?
Exactly.
So David, if they were going to try to place this on, terror charges here, talk about the possible punishment for such charges.
Oh, well, if there is going to be a terrorism charge, it could be handled by the feds also under the U.S. code, and he could be facing 30 years. Now, it's not the typical terroristic charge where a bomb is used, a nuclear weapon. That's what the statute says. But certainly this, if it's motivated by terrorism, he could be facing 30 years.
So this is what I want to ask you, Mercedes, considering what David just said, that we're not talking about terror charges in terms of throwing a bomb at a building, et cetera. We're talking about someone who pledged his allegiance to ISIS.
Right.
Could we see more laws passed to address cases like this one, or are there enough existing laws to prosecute or defend such cases?
That's a great question. I don't think that the laws have caught up with what we're seeing now, because they just haven't. To what David's point, I mean, we think about making a bomb, detonating a bomb, and that type of activity. And now we're just looking at lone wolves. And that's what we're going to have more and more. Any of these experts that come forward and say, look, we're looking for the lone wolves. It's not these cells. It's not this huge conspiracy. There are individuals out there that are doing this. We have to have the laws speed up and really look at this situation as it is. Because of the internet, there are so many other lone wolves out there. We've got to catch up to that.
So, David, the gun that was used was stolen in 2013. How does that factor into this case?
Well, I mean, the fact that the gun was stolen, I'm not sure how much that's going to factor in, because we don't know who stole the gun or how he ended up acquiring this gun. But the bottom line is he had a gun, it was an illegal gun, and it goes towards the bigger argument that people with mental diseases shouldn't be carrying guns. It's too easy to get a gun in this country. It's about as easy as buying a pack of gum at the store. That's the key, is we have to stop.
How do you know this guy? How do you know this guy is even mentally ill? You don't know that, first of all.
Exactly. And you can't, the mental illness versus gun rights, it's totally separate.
I would bet he's mentally ill.
You can't blend the two.
Okay, and plus he has an existing record. In Philadelphia, he pleaded guilty to simple assault and a gun charge in March, was sentenced the same day to 9 to 23 months in jail and 2 years probation. He was immediately paroled. Right. According to court files, January 31st, 2012, Archer had threatened another man with a gun at a house in Alden Street, in Philadelphia, West Philadelphia, suffice it to say, then briefly chased the victim outside.
Yeah, I mean, there's no evidence that this man was mentally ill.
Well,
we have someone, and even after he ambushed and tried to execute this officer, he's fleeing the scene. What does that tell you? Consciousness of thought. He knew that what he was doing was wrong.
It's a breakdown of the system. It's so obvious. With the pattern that you just stated, it's a breakdown of the system, and someone had to address this situation, this insanity, this mental disease.
There's no mental defect.
Well, I don't know. I'd be willing to bet there is a mental disease here. Whether it's enough for insanity is a whole nother story.
David, why did he run from the scene? If this person didn't know right from wrong, which you know as a great defense attorney, that's what you have to show to that jury. If he didn't know right from wrong, why is he fleeing after he tried to execute the officer?
Mentally ill people can flee.
Well,
it doesn't mean that they're not.
Okay.
Doesn't mean that they're not.
He's just a slick dude that said, "Oh, I shot at this cop. Now I've got to run."
Martha, when I say mental disease, it may or may not rise to the level of insanity. It probably doesn't. It's a different standard. So you could have a mental disease or defect. You still may not be able to have the insanity defense at trial. It's a different level.
And try selling it to the jury, like, jury, yeah, he tried to kill this officer and he
shot an
fled the
officer.
scene, but he really didn't know right from wrong.
He shot
Jury's
an
not
officer
going to buy
14
it.
times. He was mentally ill. Anyone who does that is mentally ill. All right.
You know what? Mercedes and I piled up on you.
Yeah.
All right, David. I gotta go.
Gotta
go. We love you both. Gotta go.
love you.
Go ahead, Eric.
All right, Arthur. Well, meanwhile, there's another shooting of a